Hey everyone, it is September 30th and I'm in Canada. Today is our first National Truth and Reconciliation Day. It's a day to reflect honestly on all of the things, all of the colonialism, all of the honestly terrible things that have happened to Indigenous peoples in Canada. And really, honestly, if we're honest, across the world, we have a history of taking, we have a history of pushing down, we have a history of genocide in Canada. And so I just wanted to pop in and just give a few podcasts that I found that I think are great tools in us becoming better allies, better knowledgeable about the cultural differences, the respect, that needs to happen, the history, but also like who are they now? Who are our Indigenous people in Canada and across the world? Like, what are the beliefs and cultures and things that are valuable to them so that we can become just better partners, better citizens, better friends? And listening, learning, seeking to understand is always the best way forward, right? So you might not know a lot about what happened with residential schools. You might not know a lot of things that the government did, but you know what? There's no excuse for not learning at this point, right? So you might have grown up in Canada and no one ever taught you this. You might be new to Canada, and so this is all new to you. But at the same point, we know now that things happened. And so it's our responsibility to learn about them so that we can be better together, so that we can recognize, so that we can be just honestly better neighbors, friends, and people. So we had if residential schools, we know 150,000 at least children were sent to residential schools, forced to do that. Police took them by force in many cases. We had the churches running this system where many children died. We've found over 6,500 bodies so far. And, you know, I'm not a big believer that the records are that great or that correct, right? So when they say 150,000 children went to residential schools, that's a horribly staggering number. But I also believe that we don't know, and we probably will never know the real numbers by nature of what happened, by nature of the hiding and the just not caring to keep records of who these children, who these people were. But the last residential school closed in Canada in 1996. That is not very long ago. I was a teenager. So I'm not super old, but I'm not super young. But while I was growing up in Canada in a community with running water, with electricity, with all of these things, rights and freedoms, there was children in our country that were in residential schools. And certainly systemic racism and the problems around that didn't end with the last residential school closing and still exists today. So when I look at some of the stories I hear from people that grew up on reserves, that grew up in these different communities, even if they're not in reserve, there is racism still rampant in our communities. All you have to do is look at a Facebook post when something happens to an Indigenous person, go read the comments if you think racism isn't real. It's a huge problem in our country still. We like to think that we are better than our American neighbors in this department, and frankly, we're not. We are not better. We just maybe, I don't know, hit it better. We are not better. We have a huge racism and understanding problem. Just yesterday, someone was mentioning to me their experience. They were having a conversation with someone. They said, "Oh, tomorrow's a holiday." And the person was like, "Oh my goodness, yeah, can you believe it? For Truth and Reconciliation Day. Like, why do they need a holiday?" Oh, la, la, la. And this is the attitude that still prevails in many cases in Canada, and it has to stop. So how do we stop it? Well, we start to seek to understand. We start to actually look for resources. And so these are some podcasts made by Indigenous Canadians that can just maybe help you out on that. So I just put a quick list together. There is Warrior Kids. So this one is for kids. What a great thing to do while you're in the car with your kids on a family trip or driving to school. Why not listen to one of these resources, one of these podcasts that are out there? There's Two Crees in a Pod. There is Unreserved. There's All My Relations. There's Matriarch Movement. There's Well for Culture. And my personal favorite, I feel like this podcast, this resource should be mandatory listening for every single Canadian and actually just every single person, because it teaches you so much about what happened historically. It teaches you so much, just not about things that happen to Indigenous people, but colored people in our country. There is so many wonderful resources out there, and it's our job to go and listen and learn. So my favorite is Secret Life of Canada. This is an amazing resource. I love it. The two gals that do it are actually pretty entertaining, but please, as we are having this day of truth and reconciliation, it's not just a day, it is a mindset, it's a lifestyle, it's a continuing pursuit of knowledge, understanding, and being better neighbors. So I hope this was helpful to you. If you know of some other resources that might help people learn to be better in this department, I would love you to post them down below. But please do take a moment to reflect on the day. It's not just a holiday. It is a super important day for us all to be part of the solution moving forward. We have to acknowledge the truth of what happened, the truth of what's happening, and then we can start to change it.